Hello, and welcome to show number 2632 of Eyes on Success, a weekly program empowering the visually impaired with expert advice, personal stories, and the latest in technology and accessibility. I'm Nancy Torpey.
And I'm Pete Torpey.
And I don't know that every publisher does it, but I also know that, in the disability community, sometimes you need a little bit more encouragement or a little bit more support than maybe someone who does not have any disability. So I try to make sure that I'm a cheerleader, I'm a coach, I'm the editor coming through saying that doesn't sound right. I don't like that word. Hope you don't mind. It changed that word.
And as many of us know, it's not easy to get a book published, even if you're sighted. But if you're blind or visually impaired, it can be even more of a challenge.
We'll be talking with Daisy Russell, a visually impaired author and publisher. She will share her experiences running Wicked Infinity Publishing. We'll talk with her about providing book coaching, formatting, accessibility services, as well as about how she effectively utilizes artificial intelligence tools to bridge some gaps in design and project management for her client authors. But first, for our tip of the week. This week's tip comes from Daisy Russell.
So my tip is write every little idea down. You can have a file, you can have a notebook, you can have audio recordings, whatever you want. Just write everything down, because what doesn't seem like it could be a good book idea one day, give it some time to kind of, grow as an idea from that little seed of a thought. And that's how all of my books have started. So when I say write things down, I mean, I have a file full of all kinds of things. It's just whatever comes to mind, dump it in there.
And then presumably other thoughts about the original ideas will come up, and you just associate the new thoughts with the original idea and let it grow and grow.
Yes. So my whole thing starts with, I have this writing notebook file that has everything in it. And then as something gets some more ideas, it gets into its own file. And then eventually it gets into its own folder with more stuff. And then I get to have a, final version, a manuscript ready to go.
You are listening to Eyes on Success. Success, 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 success.
In a previous episode of Eyes on Success, we talked with blind science fiction writer Aaron Spelker, and this week we're going to talk with his publisher. So Daisy, maybe you can introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Daisy Russell. I'm a visually impaired author in addition to a publisher. I'm also a full-time grad student pursuing my vision rehabilitation therapy master's. I work currently as a VRT, and I have a very active 3-year-old son, 2 dogs, a cat, a husband who's also visually impaired, and my 2 passions are helping people and writing. So that's how I kind of got started.
Sounds like you really keep busy, don't you?
Just a little bit. Coffee helps.
So have you been writing for a long time?
I have. So when I was about 6 and learning Braille, I started writing short stories and kind of moral lessons and, plays about animals that talked. And my writing has gotten better since then. But it's always been a passion of mine, that and reading. I read over 100 books a year.
And I assume the type of books you write these days has changed considerably over the years.
Yes, I mostly write young adult fantasy, paranormal, little small town romance I'm starting to get into. I have a lot of interests in different genres, so.
How close are you to getting your degree, by the way?
I have a year to go, so by next fall, I'll be sitting for my exam and completing my practicum, and then I will be a certified vision rehabilitation therapist.
Wow, cool.
Thank you.
Well, you said you're already working as a vision rehabilitation therapist. Is having the degree going to change what you're able to do?
Yes. So technically, I'm not licensed right now. So I teach cooking, laundry, housekeeping, personal management. And during the year when we don't have teenagers, because we only have kids through the summer months. So during the rest of the year, we work with adults and I teach Braille to a lot of people who have lost their vision later in life. So they want to reconnect with literacy. So I'm kind of connected to Braille and writing and reading in all kinds of ways.
Sounds very fun and rewarding. How neat.
It is. And, I would do this publishing writing thing and just call it, my full-time job. But I really like interacting with people and, helping as well.
And what are some of the books that you've had published?
So my first book was Wicked Rebellion, which is the first in a series that I am continuing slowly. And the second book is Phantom Kiss, which is the start of another series, and that is a paranormal new adult romance. So it's a girl who goes to college and she can see ghosts, and it's a school for people who can see ghosts.
Sounds interesting. So I guess being a longtime author, is that what led you into publishing?
Yes. So I kind of got into it for selfish reasons because I did not want to go the traditional publishing route. I felt like traditional publishing doesn't always support authors with disabilities like myself and others I know, and, support Braille and audio and alt text for cover descriptions. So I thought it'd be more professional to publish under a publishing company instead of just saying, published by Daisy Russell, also written by Daisy Russell. And then I started dreaming a little bit bigger and helping other authors with disabilities, whether it was editing, book coaching, uploading their work, proofreading, things like that.
So I gather that in addition to having a visually impaired person running this publishing firm, that you have a special focus. So can you tell our listeners what the name of your publishing organization is and what is special about it?
Yes, so it's called Wicked Infinity Publishing. Wicked is because I'm from Boston, and I wanted something to spell WIP for work in progress. And what if publishing was already taken? And I also just like the infinity symbol. So we focus on books by authors with disabilities or people who write about characters with disabilities. And we try to make sure that it's authentic representation and that the books are accessible as they possibly can. So offering large print, Braille, audio, and always including alternative text and cover descriptions in the body of the book as well, so people can enjoy the covers who can't see them.
And when you say people with disabilities, you don't mean just visual disabilities. This is the whole gamut.
It is the whole gamut, and it's still growing. So mostly I've only worked with authors with visual impairments like myself, but I hope to someday kind of keep going and, helping out with people who have other disabilities as well.
So that sounds like a whole different area of expertise than writing books, getting into publishing. What did you have to learn to become a publisher? And I suppose you had to make certain connections also.
Yes, so it is slow going. Like we talked about, there's a lot of hats, a lot of shoes that I wear, but it is one of my passions. And so I watch a lot of webinars. I read a lot of books about writing and publishing and how to better market and different strategies. And I kind of want to grow in all those areas. I also read books about writing and publishing.
So once you learn some of the mechanics of publishing, it seems to me it's important to be connected to various distribution systems and book sellers and events like that. How did you do that? Is that important also?
That is also important. I started out with various Facebook groups with authors with disabilities or neurodivergent groups who are writers, and then just kind of fell into different things. Like Women in Publishing is a big one that I follow their newsletter. I'm in their groups. There's a whole bunch of different things. A lot of what I know is self-taught, and I'm still learning as I go. Yeah, it's a lot. I also learn a lot from watching other people and how they pursue different avenues. Book Vault is a new trend that people are using, and they support better large print quality for book publishing. So that's another area to look into, and just keeping an eye on kind of what's trending and what's the best way to market and how to reach different authors and, the audiences for their books.
So I kind of generically think I have an understanding of what publishers do, but I have a very simple framework of that there's an author who writes a book, contacts a publisher, and a publisher sort of maybe does some editing and distributes it and gets the book talked about around town and stuff. But tell me specifically what a publisher does do.
Yeah, so as a publisher, my biggest thing is helping people edit and proofread and market their book. So I've done a lot of research on different keywords and marketing. So a lot of what I do depends on what the author needs. So I've had an author say, I want to write a book. Talk me through writing this book. Help me edit the book, publish the book, upload it on Amazon, make sure I have a good cover, connect me with a cover designer you like who's good at working with people who are visually impaired, help me write a blurb for my book and do all these things. So that's a lot of what I do. I market as much as I can, but I also try and set them up so that they know what they need to be doing to help promote themselves.
So I might not have thought of each of those steps myself, having never done it. But the one that surprised me was you said sometimes authors will come to you with an idea for a book, and you actually work with them to create the book. They don't come to you with at least a draft.
Yep. So that happened once. The book Love Can't Be Measured was one of those books. The person came to me. They said, I'd have an idea. I said, okay. And they're like, I need a book coach. I need you to help me brainstorm, go through, tell me if I'm headed in the right direction, check over my work, kind of edit and proofread as we go.
Wow, I'm impressed. I never imagined that amount of involvement on behalf of a publisher.
And I don't know that every publisher does it, but I also know that, in the disability community, sometimes you need a little bit more encouragement or a little bit more support than maybe someone who does not have any disability. So I try to make sure that I'm a cheerleader, I'm a coach, I'm the editor coming through saying that doesn't sound right. I don't like that word. Hope you don't mind. I changed that word. And then, like I said, I work with somebody who would do book formatting and cover design for me when I would explain exactly what I was looking for. And, we needed a cover that wasn't too busy, that was going to be visually accessible to people who may be colorblind or have some visual impairment. So the font had to be sans serif, things like that.
Do you do this all on your own?
I do this with, like I said, I contract with a graphic designer, book formatter, assistance from AI. I occasionally call Ira to have them look through and double check something. My husband's really great about handling the 3-year-old. When I have my writing sessions, I shut the door. I'm like, okay, it's 8:30 to 9:30. Mama's going to go do her writing. Or, updating all my spreadsheets with, all the fun business expenses, or, moving stuff around, doing edits, anything like that. So
It is work.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's my full-time job, but it's there. It's up there.
Talk about some of the barriers that people run into when they want to publish a book or get their writing out in the world, and particularly some of the barriers to people who are visually impaired or have other disabilities.
One of them that I experienced myself, both as an author and as a publisher, is finding someone to design the right cover for you. My first book had one cover, and I loved it. It was what I had explained. But later on, I was doing a whole revisions because I was doing the next 2 books in the trilogy and planning ahead what to do with those covers and making some edits to the book itself, and realized that it wasn't quite what I had envisioned in my head. So I realized I need to be a little bit more clear when I was explaining what I wanted. The vibe of the book needed to come across a little bit differently. So, I was working with a different cover designer, and I was like, I need you to go into great detail when you describe this cover to me, because, I didn't ask enough questions the first time around. And it was a great cover, the first one. However, it wasn't quite what I had imagined. So in rethinking how I was going to market the next 2 books in the series, I had to realize that I had to come up with a formula for exactly what I wanted to request in a cover.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a big one, is the cover design, because I can't physically look at the cover and double check that my name is spelled right or, things like that. So you definitely have to build a relationship with a graphic designer who understands what you're looking for and does quality work, which is good.
Do you use any of the relatively recent AI tools to help you, for example, describe what the image looks like to you, or take a first pass at grammar errors or any of that?
I do, and I say that knowing it's a very hot topic in the writing community. So I, as an author, have used AI to kind of bounce ideas off of, or maybe pull together my ideas into an outline I can actually have organized and use. I also have used it to check my covers over going forward now that I'm getting more comfortable using AI. I do also use it for that first run through. And a lot of the authors I work with also use it because AI makes things a lot more accessible for many people with disabilities.
Yeah, when we talked with Aaron Spelker about writing his science fiction books, he talked about using AI to check things like grammar, and maybe he changed the tense of the story in some parts or some sections and it wasn't consistent. So I think he got some interesting hints from that way. He also got help with some of the physics in the novels he was writing.
Yeah, so some of the, I definitely have used AI a little bit as a research tool. I've used it, like I said, to kind of go through and make sure things are consistent, but primarily most of the writing I do is not AI. I write most of the words, and then I may say like, hey, tell me what you think of this. Give me some, developmental critiques that I can work on. And, whether the authors I work with use AI or not is a choice. I just let them know when, hey, I can see that you used AI for this, and your reader will know too. Just to kind of give them that heads up, because it is kind of controversial at this point in time.
Well, I think with most things concerning AI, you don't want to have the AI do the entire job. You sort of want to use them as an intern or assistant sometimes to help you with the drudgery work or some of the things that are just easy to do. You might assign to an intern or something, and then just take their suggestions or not, but the final product has to be your own.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I completely agree with that.
So it is not easy to publish a book, is it? And to sell it across the country? You make it sound easy.
It is not easy. A lot of work goes into it behind the scenes. And I can say, full disclosure, my books have sold 87 copies, and that's with me doing very minimal marketing for them. But as I'm learning more, I'm trying to, develop a better, marketing strategy and kind of sharing that with the authors I work with as well. But yeah, it is a lot of hard work. I'm glad in some ways I make it look easy, but it definitely, there's a lot that goes into it. You got to know a lot about keywords, about what's trending, how people are going to find your book. You kind of have to play with those algorithms and have a following. And for me to do all that while, juggling a few other things.
There's the ultimate step of converting the book, which starts out as presumably some sort of file containing the words in the book, into the physical book. And by the physical book, this can mean lots of different formats. So print books, audio books, whatever. How do you actually do that part of the process?
So I love working in my Word files, and then in the past, I've used someone who does both my graphic design and book formatting for me, because a lot of the tools that are out there that people can download, there's a few different ones out there. Of course, their names are eluding me at the moment, but there's a lot of ones that can generate these book files for you that are ready to go, ready to publish, and perfectly formatted. And I've tested them as a JAWS user, and they are not the most accessible out there. So in my opinion, I want to make sure something looks good, so I may contract out a book formatter to do that work for me. And now I'm kind of fiddling with AI to see how it can do with book formatting, but we're still doing some experimentation with that.
So these book formatters, they're the people who make sure that, for example, a chapter starts at the top of the page or the table of contents is on its own set of pages and stuff like that?
Yes, exactly. And checking a lot of the visuals to make sure there's no weird page break. There's, no extra white space that shouldn't be there, that the font's consistent and readable. And, like the binding margins are set correctly. And especially for the large print, that it meets the large print, like the most common standards for large print.
I imagine that most of the books that you publish are in some kind of digital format that people can download, and that's easy to make in large print or regular print. What do you do about audiobooks and Braille books? Do you have to hire narrators, or do you use AI to make the voices? I guess there's many options.
There are a lot of options. So right now, I am exploring different ways of doing audio. Two of my books, one is already available on Braille and audio reading download through the National Library Service, and the second one is in process. So that's one way that you can access the audiobook. For the Braille book, I do that myself as a BRF. I used to work as a Braille transcriber, so I'm able to get an accessible BRF Braille ready format available.
And who did the audio for your audiobooks then?
So volunteers through the Perkins Library, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Were able to read my book. They also read Erin's book as well. So we're able to get our book in audio that way, because producing an audiobook is very expensive. And, as a small publishing company, it's not quite in the budget as of yet, but again, we're hopeful and, dreaming big for the future. So it is on my sort of to-do list to make sure that the books will all be available in audio and not just through Bard, although that's a really good start.
Have you made any hardcover books?
I have not made a hardcover as of yet. It is an option. So a lot of my books right now, I produce through Amazon KDP, which is not the most accessible process, but if you have a lot of patience, you can get through it with a screen reader, and input all the information you need and upload your files. And Amazon will do the hard work of producing those paperback books and that large print book for you. I am exploring ways to, as they say in the publishing world, go wide and make my book more available on other platforms as well. Just at the time when I was publishing, Amazon KDP was the easiest way to go.
Well, this has been fascinating. I always thought it was hard enough to just create the content of a book, but there's a whole lot of more steps that go on after the content has been created. So if anybody gets it into their head that they want to create a book themselves, how would they work with you?
Sure. So I do have my own website. It's www.wickedinfinitypublishing.com. I also have an email at info@wickedinfinitypublishing.com. My own personal author email, which I check every day because I have some correspondence with some younger writers, is Daisy, DAISY, RUSSELLAUTHOR @gmail.com. I'm also hanging around on Facebook, facebook.com/Wicked Infinity Publishing LLC. There is an Instagram. It's also not super active yet, but we're getting there little by little. It's a one woman plus some help along the way show.
Well, I guess if anyone has a book that they're eager to publish and get out in circulation, it sounds like you can do the whole thing from soup to nuts or any part of that for them.
Yeah, and if there's certain things I don't understand, like children's books, I get a lot of questions about children's books and illustrators. I am currently working on getting contacts, so if anyone hearing this is one of those things, where we are looking for some more contacts to kind of build our network so I can help some more authors as well.
Thanks for talking with us, Daisy. What a great service.
Oh, thank you.
I'm glad we can help you spread the word about it, because there's a lot of people who do like to write.
Yeah, there are. And I'm running a writing club this summer actually at my job. And there's, so many young kids that are like, oh, I'd love to write. Oh, so I'm really lucky that I get to do a lot of the things I love.
Great.
And work a full-time job also.
We've done over the years a whole lot of episodes where we've spoken with different authors who've written all sorts of things, fiction, nonfiction, whatever. And somehow we know that once they hand off the content, publishing has to happen. But this was just a great opportunity to be able to talk to somebody about the rest of the process.
Yeah, it is a process.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love testing out different programs and software to see like, oh, is this one going to be the one that's completely accessible for me to use? And it's like, nope.
Right.
No, it's not. So, I still need some sighted assistance or AI or, IRA, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like I said, if you're very patient and don't get too mad at Amazon KDP uploads, you can publish books.
Cool. In case you missed any of that in the audio, you can always find all of that information in the show notes associated with this episode, which is 2632. And I want to remind our listeners that we're still looking for submissions from you about how you do things differently and how it might be an advantage, sometimes being blind over being sighted. And you can send those submissions to us at hosts@eyesonsuccess.net. Send us a 1 to 2 minute audio clip attached to your message, or you can send a text message, and be sure to let us know if we can use your name if we use your submission in a future show. And that mailing address again is hosts@eyesonsuccess.net. Thanks a lot.
That's it for today's show. Next week on Eyes on Success, we'll be talking with the hosts of the Babies Down, Bottles Up podcast, and they are not talking about milk bottles. They bring humor, honesty, and real talk to blind parenting, sharing stories about family life, advocacy, and community. We will talk with hosts Jocelyn Williams, Taryn Landry, and Lakeisha Holmes, as well as their producer, Danny Romero, about how they've built a supportive space where visually impaired parents can connect and learn from one another.
You've been listening to Eyes on Success, available wherever you get your podcasts.
For show notes, resources, and more information, visit our website at eyesonsuccess.net.
Thank you for being part of our community. Until next time, I'm Peter Torpey.
And I'm Nancy Goodman Torpey. Thank you for listening.